James Dickey, let's talk about Rule 44 of the Republican Party of Texas platform. It's entitled Censure, Process, and Penalties. Reading from the rules itself, it says a county or senatorial district convention or a county or district executive committee may, by a 2/3 vote of those present and voting, adopt a resolution censuring a Republican public or party office holder representing all or a portion of that county or district for 3 or more actions taken during the current biennium in opposition to the core principles of the Republican Party of Texas defined in the preamble of the party platform as described in Rule number 43A. Such a resolution may include a request to the state convention or SREC that the named office holder be penalized. If such a request is included, the delegates of the state convention by majority vote or the state Republican Executive Committee by a 2/3 vote of the full membership may vote to concur with the resolution of censure and declare that no rule or bylaw enacted by any division of the party at any level that demands the party be neutral in intra-party contests shall be observed with respect to the named candidate, and no financial or other support shall be provided to their campaign by the party except that which is required by law. Any such penalty shall expire at the beginning of the state convention following its adoption. At the time that I'm talking to you right now, Chairman James Dickey of the Texas GOP, many resolutions are being passed by county executive committees. None of them are Rule 44s. Is that fact?
That is correct.
Rule 44 is a mechanism that I think, properly used, can be a willowing out of those who don't stand for the principles of the party. How is this done? I got some questions on this.
Sure.
From what I'm reading, essentially any precinct chair within the state can initiate a Rule 44 action. In other words, present a resolution at an executive committee to censure someone who represents a part or the entirety of their district or county.
Right.
They have to be a representative. So for instance, someone in Jefferson County cannot censure someone out in Midland County.
Right.
Okay. And it must be a 2/3 majority of those voting and present in the executive committee. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a specific wording that must be in that resolution?
No, they have to say that it does have to say that that they're referring it to the SREC or to the convention, and it have to say that they would like the Rule 44 or something to the effect of they'd like the Rule 44 penalties to be imposed.
Okay, now, the resolution itself at the county level, or if presented at the convention, does that resolution itself have to state that it is an official censure from the county party, part 1, right? And then part 2, we also recommend penalties, thus send it up the chain of command to the SREC. It doesn't have to go to the SREC, right?
No.
It can be done right there at the executive committee at the county level, official censure right there. But if they want penalties, if they don't want any money, if they want the state party or the local party to be able to take a side, if you will,
Right.
in a primary, it's got to go to the SREC, and it must be 2/3 of the entire 62-member SREC, correct?
Or a majority of the entire body of the convention. And so we got asked about this during my campaign, and my response was, yes, it exists. I was on the rule committee that passed it last year. But it exists, but it has very high bars, and it has very high bars for a good reason, because the norm is that the party takes no sides. So the party is neutral with regard to primary candidates, during the primary, and then in the general election, we support anybody who has an R behind their name. And so if you have some given candidate who has taken very clear steps in direct opposition to the principles listed out in the preamble, and the principles are very clear, if they've taken action, that you, 3 actions or more that you can point to during this biennium, that you can point to and say those actions were an absolute violation in opposition to these preamble items, the principles, then if 2/3 of the EC agrees with that and submits that resolution and then submits it on to the SREC, and then the SREC, 2/3 of them also agree, then all of that neutrality that is and support that is normally comes with having the R behind your name or being in an R contest, all of that would be eliminated, and that's the penalty. And so it's a not insignificant thing at all, and therefore it should have a pretty high bar, and I think we walked a pretty good balance of that.
Okay, let's talk about the process. What I envision, not having seen this before, is that if I was to walk into an executive committee meeting in any county in the Lone Star State, and a precinct chair, a member of the executive committee, was to present this resolution, I'm envisioning something that would resemble an impeachment hearing. In other words, they literally would have to make a case. For instance, you have 3 strikes, if you will.
Right.
That the executive committee member, that precinct chair, in presenting that motion of censure, would have to sit there and say, okay, on this particular date, this candidate voted this way, or made a public statement,
Right.
said this, because it can be a public statement.
It
It
absolutely
could be
could.
a media appearance. Let's say somebody is advocating for same-sex marriage, or somebody is advocating for open borders, or anything that deals with opposite of the preamble.
Right.
Then they have to make that case. These are the 3,
Yeah.
it could be 3 things against pro-life, or it could be something against pro-life, it could be something against free enterprise, or something, right? It could be 3 offenses on one issue, or 3 separate offenses
Yeah.
on 3 different issues, right?
And
I'm thinking they've got to make almost a legal argument, almost an opening statement. This is the case that I'm making for censure on this particular office holder.
I would fully expect that conversation about those 3 items would absolutely be part of the debate on any one of these items. Before, if I were a member of that executive committee, before I would vote in favor of any resolution like this, I would want to know for sure that those 3 occurrences really did happen and really do mean what they
In the
being
last 2
presented.
years, from the 2016 adoption of the platform to the 2018 adoption of the platform and the close of the convention,
Right.
that's the time frame. Is that correct?
That is, well, it's during the biennium, so it's during it. Yeah, it
Convention
would
to
be,
convention.
Yeah, it's actually it's election to election, so it would be
General, 2016
Yeah.
general to 2018 general.
right, and so you'd be looking at what they had done, during the lead up to serving, and then during the legislative session, right, and that's also why it matters who does this and when it's done. If you pay attention to the details on the rule, it can be done by the SREC. Of course, the SREC would be doing it up to part of the primary, but then anything the SREC does would end its effectiveness as of the next convention.
Mm-hmm.
So if the SREC voted in this September's, if something made it through some county, a relevant county, quickly enough, and then got to the SREC, and the SREC was voting on it in September, well, anything the SREC passed, it would lose its effectiveness as of the incident of the next SREC, and the next SREC takes place at the convention. So it would only have force through the primary. And then when we got to the general, unless, the new SREC also took up similar motion, it wouldn't have effect anymore.
Its greatest political effect would be in the primary, though.
Quite likely.
Now, let's say it's kicked up to the SREC. Would there be a representative from the passing executive committee that would stand before the SREC and make that argument? Or would a member of the SREC have to stand before the body? Would rules have to be suspended? How would that be handled? Would an advocate from the county come to the mountaintop and argue, this is why we censured, and this is why we're arguing for you guys to enforce the penalties?
My assumption, since this would come through a resolution, my assumption is that the resolution committee would have to figure out how they want to hear it and how they want to present it. I'm not aware of a rule that would allow someone not on the SREC to address the SREC as part of the debate. So my hunch is that somebody from the SREC would have to be an advocate for the motion, which, you know, clearly it would have had to come through the resolution committee. So if it did, it'd have people on the resolution committee who would be in favor of it and therefore want to act as an advocate.
Cherokee County passed a resolution in which they recommended censure be done by the SREC towards the Speaker of the House. Now, that's a recommendation, or they recommend that resolution, and they said they passed it along to you. That doesn't guarantee that it's going to be taken up on the agenda.
No, it doesn't, but resolutions ought to be considered by the resolution committee.
So when the floor is open for, if somebody's there and they say, hey, we got this from Cherokee County that recommends that the full board of directors of the party trigger full censure, that's up to the resolutions committee to
Yeah, well, and
iron
actually
that
it's
out.
good that so censure, just generally speaking, just means to say something bad about somebody, right? Or to criticize someone.
Mm-hmm.
So literally, you know, any county, anybody for that matter can issue a statement of censure. What's unique about Rule 44 is that it allows for the implementation of some penalties. It also allows for the binding on other county parties, right? So what's unique about it is, let's say you had, a state senator who had 20 counties.
Okay.
And one of the counties in their district passes a Rule 44 resolution, and they make their case, and it goes to the SREC, and the SREC, the appropriate, they get their 2/3 vote, it goes to the SREC also passes the 2/3 vote. The way Rule 44 is written, it would prohibit any of the counties represented by that senator from giving any support to that senator because they've triggered this Rule 44 penalty. That's what's unique about Rule 44. Because any other, there is no technical, interaction between any of the counties otherwise. And there's, generally speaking, there's very little we do to impact the counties either directly in terms of their rules. There are some basic things they can't break, and of course there's election law. But, what's unique about Rule 44 is that impact of it making a global consequence. That's what's unique about Rule 44.
Okay. One of the big questions, James, that we get from around the state about Rule 44 is, how do you censure a statewide office holder? Okay. I was having a conversation, I believe it was on the air, with a party chair about, let's specifically talk about these resolutions that are of no confidence on the House leadership, on Speaker Strauss. Is only Bexar County the ones that could potentially censure the Speaker of the House? Or because really he's elected by every representative in the House, especially January 10, 2017, when it was a 150-0 recorded vote, everybody green-lighted him. Is he considered a statewide office holder? So first, how does one censure, God forbid, it's Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick or Attorney General Ken Paxton or George B. Bush or whomever? They're statewide office holders, they are Republicans, and Rule 44 specifically says any Republican public office holder. How does the executive committee, the committeeman in Kirby County, censure the governor?
Okay, so again, censure is just a statement of criticism, so anybody can censure anybody anytime. That's just up to them. And there are really no restrictions on that. That's free speech. If they want to trigger Rule 44 consequences, Rule 44 consequences specify that it has to be a county EC that at least part of that county is represented by the relevant person. So, the ag commissioner, any one of the railroad commissioners, the land commissioner, the lieutenant governor, the governor, all of those statewide elected officials, the attorney general and so on, those are actually elected statewide. Everybody gets cast a vote for them in every county. Therefore, anybody in any, the EC of any county with a 2/3 vote could trigger the Rule 44 process and maybe the Rule 44 consequences with regard to any one of those people, as well as a state representative that represents part or all their county, a state senator that represents all or part of their county, a county commissioner that represents part or all their county, same thing. With regard to the Speaker of the House in particular, he's elected by HD 121. So there's only one county that has any part of HD 121, and that's Bexar County. So to trigger a Rule 44 process against the Speaker, he has a position that is of statewide importance, but the only people who cast a vote for him to be elected to office are HD 121. So the only county that could trigger a Rule 44 process for that particular person filling the Speaker of the House role is Bexar
And that's
County.
because he's not on the ballot statewide.
He's not.
Okay. Now, can the SREC, as the board of directors of the party, can they?
Again, anybody can issue any statement of disapproval that they want, right? A censure resolution.
Right.
Anybody can do that. To trigger the Rule 44 consequences, there's a very specified set of requirements. And that set of requirements doesn't allow, it requires a two-step process where a county starts it and the SREC or the convention finishes it. That's given how the rule is written now. Who knows how the rule will look, or if the rule will exist after the next convention.
Okay, so the idea that the SREC can initiate the censure process is wrong. It has to start at the county level. The SREC cannot act autonomously to censure.
The SREC can do a lot of stuff,
right?
But what is not in our rules, now the SREC by 2/3 vote can modify our rules within limits of what the what the convention body has allowed, but short of a rule change, there is no method for instituting the consequences of Rule 44 short of following the process in Rule 44. And the process in Rule 44 has both steps: the county EC and a relevant county EC and the SREC.
And even if the resolution, Rule 44, is brought up at the convention, it must be initiated by the county and submitted to the convention.
That's my read, either a county EC or a county convention.
Can then submit a resolution to the convention.
Correct.
Okay, now,
Now, obviously, if all this were happening, I'd have a parliamentarian and a
Yeah,
whole bunch of
right.
other people
Your
making sure
legal
that-
counsel and a whole 9 yards,
We'd
right?
be watching this very, very carefully, and I would make sure every I was dotted and every T was crossed, right? Because this is not something we take lightly at all.
No,
and I
it's
don't
a
ever
very
wanna give
powerful.
I don't want to give that impression. But I also do want to remind you, as far as just censure goes, that's just free speech, and we've got that.
Right, right. Okay, so let's nail it down. The process needs to start at the executive committee or at the county level.
At the county level.
All right, whether it's the executive
In a
committee
county
or the
represented-
county convention,
Right.
or senatorial district convention.
In a county represented by that relevant person.
Okay,
whoever that is.
all right. Anyone can censure. Anyone can have a resolution that specifically censures anyone that they want to censure.
Sure.
But if they want to trigger Rule 44, they first have to have the 2/3 majority at their executive committee,
Right.
or the majority of those at their senatorial or county convention, a
Correct.
majority, okay?
Right.
They have two options. They can either refer it to the SREC for further action if
True.
they are requesting party penalties.
Right.
Or they can refer to the state convention
Correct.
if they are requesting party penalties.
Correct.
Two mechanisms: a precinct chair through an executive committee,
Right.
or a delegate to a senatorial or county convention can submit a resolution for the entire convention to consider.
Correct.
And they can either decide if they want to send it to the SREC or if they want to send it to the state convention.
True.
At senatorial or county convention or at state convention, it is a majority vote of those present.
True.
Okay. At the executive committee and at the SREC, it's a 2/3
Of those voting.
of those voting.
Right.
Right. At the executive committee, SREC of the entire SREC, 2/3 of the entire SREC.
Right.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that is the only way to get that done. If it passes the 2/3 of the entire membership of the SREC, that's when the penalties kick in. Or if the majority vote is taken at the convention, then the penalties can kick in.
Correct.
There's a motion at the conventions. Is that by voice vote or does the House have to be divided? Is that the purview of the chair?
Yeah. We're actually doing a lot of investigation right now into whether we'll have the ability to do electronic voting for the individual vote items, for like vote for state chair, for vice chair, for that kind of thing. And if we had such a mechanism available for those votes, then it would be my preference to use them for all the votes. So we have the actual counts.
When
That way there's no question. As the chair, I'd rather have there be no question about the result.
Correct. For statewide
Correct.
office, governor, lieutenant governor, AG, ag commissioner, land commissioner, what would you anticipate if it's a mere one county that passes a resolution recommending punishment? I'm thinking that it has to be sort of a groundswell before the board of directors of the party, the SREC, would consider such an action. That there would have to be sort of a groundswell. It couldn't be just because Sabine County just decided, or Deep Smith County decided we want to censure the governor. It's just this one county. I've got to believe there's got to be a sentiment of these resolutions that are flowing towards the SREC if it's going to be something as severe as inflicting punishment on a statewide office holder, on the AG or the land commissioner or a Supreme Court justice or a appellate court justice or something like that. That's got to be your instinct on that, right, James?
Absolutely. I trust that the SREC would never take this step lightly, and so it would be highly unlikely that sentiment expressed by only one
or
county.
two counties.
Now, it's not that it wouldn't, satisfy the requirement of the rule, but
the likelihood.
they've got to get 2/3 of the vote of the SREC, and the SREC takes the party very seriously, and our relationship with our elected officials very seriously. So I would be very, I trust the SREC implicitly. I would be very surprised if that would ever happen. If one criticism.
Well,
would
you're very
trigger
aware. I mean, it's no secret. There are forces out there that are studying Rule 44, and they do plan to try and apply it. Is the SREC ready for it?
I think so. I think there's started to be enough conversations about it. And again, the SREC, as a body, this is a dedicated, committed group of volunteers who've given time and treasure to the party for, in some cases, years. In fact, in most cases, years, even before ever being on the SREC, years of commitment of volunteer work and dedication to the party. So I would not expect, especially with as much activity and conversation as there has been, I would be very surprised if any significant portion of the SRC is caught surprised by any level of activity on this. And I know there's discussion going on about communicating well the details about Rule 44. And one thing I commit as chair, I will make it very clear that we are all on the same page about what it does mean and what it doesn't mean, what the consequences really are and are not. I won't, as chair, go to great efforts to try to sway the results one way or the other, but I will absolutely make it very clear what the process really is and what it's not, and what the consequences really are and what they are not, and then trust the body to come up with a good result.
Is there a gap in there? Have we covered everything that you believe should be known about Rule 44 for the Republican primary voters and the elected officials, especially at the, one thing I like about it, it gives so much weight to the elected official that's closest to the people, and that is the precinct chair, and who is elected to be partisan.
Yeah,
Anything that we're missing?
No, the point that I've consistently made from my election through now is, it's a big deal for the party to start to take sides against one of our own, against somebody wearing our label. And so it is completely appropriate that it be a multi-step process with fairly high bars for it to happen. And that is entirely appropriate, and I'm comfortable that given all of that as a body, wherever we end up on any given thing will be the appropriate place. I mean, we've got a lot of people who care very much, from the precinct chairs all the way up through the SREC.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for all of your
Thank you.
time. Very gracious. Thank